everyone. Happy Friday. Hi, Kerri. How you doing?
Hi, we don't usually get to say happy Friday.
I know, right? And I got my Seahawks jersey on because I'm back in Washington. I can't wait to watch the game here locally. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah.
So
And
nice
you
to
have
meet
Blue
y'all.
Friday. I have Red Friday. We wear
You have
red on
Red Friday,
Fridays.
yes.
Yep,
Tell
to
us a little
remember
bit about Red
everybody.
Friday because Red Friday is kind of a cool thing. I mean, Seahawks
Yes.
are pretty awesome too, but talk about Red Friday for a second.
So it all started with Remember Everyone Deployed on Friday. So there was a movement that started, nobody knows exactly how, but it was back in the 80s. And they just said, let's start supporting our military by wearing red on Fridays. So at Fairway, we actually made it part of our nonprofit that supports the military called the American Warrior Initiative. And we changed it to say, remember every defender, because we have heroes here in the US that have boots on the ground always. And that would be our first responders, like firefighters, anybody that drives an ambulance, our nurses, doctors, and teachers. Teachers often get left out, but we just want to give some recognition to our local heroes too. And we sell the shirts that we have, and whatever profit we make, we actually give away service dogs, and we pay for mortgages. Or if you are in a medical situation and you need bills covered, we help with that too. So it's pretty cool.
The service dog part was so cool. I love that part about it.
Yes, you were at one of our events.
Yes, it was so cool. Because they actually gave a service dog to a vet that needed it, and it sometimes it makes the difference between whether they can fully function and whether they can't. So it's a huge thing, and it's a great organization. So if you want shirts, get hold of Kerri. You guys all know how to get hold of us because you watch us all the time, right? So
Yes.
anyway, Kerri, what are we doing today?
We are going to talk about ADUs, and it's really going to go right in line with last week's topic of multi-generational living. An ADU is something that you can utilize for multi-generational living. So we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it.
All right. So what is an ADU? That's about everybody goes, what are all these little acronyms you use? And it stands for accessory dwelling unit. And they're just like having like a second house on your property, or I mean, it could be a small house or whatever. It could be pretty much anything, but anything that it has to be permitted. There's a bunch of county organizations and cities and stuff like that. So you always have to watch that. You can't just go build one usually, but it's a second dwelling on your property.
It is, and there's different types of definitions for ADUs, which is on the next slide.
All right, I'll let you go ahead and do that.
They could be detached, attached, and converted spaces. Some people will turn their garage into an ADU. So as long as it's a room or dwelling with a separate entrance, has its own bathroom and its own kitchen, so it could be separate from another living space, it could be considered as rental or a unit for a family member to live in. So here in Kitsap County, there were a lot of restrictions on adding an ADU to your property. But just in this past year or so, they've really been pushing legislation and things here in the county to get them approved and lessen the amount of property that is needed in order to place an ADU there. So it's huge for our area.
And I mean, with the housing, I mean, it was such a housing crisis too. I mean, it was just like, they're building like crazy right now still. I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening as far as developments and stuff, but a lot of the like entry level kind of homes, they really just don't build a lot because it doesn't make financial sense for the builders. And so, to kind of help offset, I think some of that is probably a lot of the reasons that those changes were made. So
yeah, and that all happened before things started to be shaken up here in the mortgage and real estate industry with prices going up and interest rates rising. So the timing was pretty perfect when you think about it.
Okay. So you could have it in the house too, like what we talked about. You could have like an upstairs and a downstairs, and the upstairs could be one unit and downstairs could be another unit, right?
Correct. Yes.
Oh. All right. The benefits of ADUs, income generation. So this is kind of what we were talking about a little bit last time, is like, having some, because you have like multi-generational families or something living, and, it's, you don't necessarily, like I said, if I wanted my kids to move in with me, that'd be great, but I don't necessarily want to share the same exact space, like having a house on somewhere on my property, or having the kid in the basement, what we call the mom in the basement, whoever, that would be kind of a cool thing because it keeps it separated and you still have your own spaces.
And it's a lot less expensive. So if you wanted to have a child or other family member live there, because it's way too expensive for them to get an apartment. I just met with a young couple yesterday and they were living in an apartment and they said that they wanted to increase it from 2,200 a month to 20, I think 2875. And they're like, no way, we've got to get out of here. We can't afford that. Most people can't. These apartments and stuff are so expensive. So if you have a space that you can convert to make it an accessory dwelling unit, it could be a lot less expensive for your child, but it will also teach them some responsibility of having to start being on their own and making payments like that. Just get them used to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Or, even to bring back, like a mother-in-law, kind of like a mother-in-law unit, or to do like a mother-in-law kind of thing where, maybe they're not ready to give up all their independence, but it's like, they're still close by. So if they need help, you can help them or, whatever. So it can go the other way too.
Yeah.
That's when, when we were looking at, this has been several years ago, but that's one of the things that we were kind of thinking about doing was because we wanted to have like a mother-in-law unit or an ADU on the property because I have kids going away, I have kids coming home, I have parents who are both getting older and stuff, and so it was kind of a nice, it was something I was looking into. But
it's always a great option to have, and if your kids don't live there, then you can turn it into income for your home. Exactly. A lot of people use it to offset their mortgage because, let's face it, cost of living is going up, and so if you have the ability to rent out space and be able to make some income to help offset your mortgage, even better. A lot of things that people don't know is when you do purchase a property that has an ADU, you can actually use the income to qualify. It's like same as using your job as income. What they'll do is when they perform the appraiser, we order a schedule of rent as well. And so the appraiser will go out there and look at common ADUs in the area and what they rent for. And you can get credit for up to 75% of the median rental income in that area.
Okay, and we have some new exciting announcements about that too, right?
Yes,
yes. The next slide.
Yes. So it used to be only conventional loans would allow rental income to be included as qualifying income, but FHA just came out last week and said they are going to consider rental income for ADUs as qualifying income. So it's a huge game changer for a lot of people. Another really cool announcement that was put out earlier in the year around June is that if you need down payment assistance, the state of Washington has a program called the Washington State Housing and Finance Commission Down Payment Assistance Program. Before, you were only allowed to buy one unit. Now you can buy multiple units with down payment assistance. Tell me that isn't a game changer for people. You're going to be able to have help with down payment, and you're going to be able to create a stream of income from your home.
And I was just talking to one of my sons about that, and it was like, what, I think if you, I've got, a couple more different ones are talking about, I want to start looking at buying a house and what I got to do, and I'm kind of talking to them, this is kind of some of the steps you got to start with here. But that was one of my suggestions to them is like, a lot of times you can get like a duplex and, you could live on one side, rent out the other side and have some of that mortgage like subsidized with the cost of doing that. And now with the FHA and the down payment assistance, that really will help a lot of, kind of first time home buyers get into something like that where they can start building up that equity in their house a lot faster, I would think.
Yeah. And it really levels the playing field for first time home buyers because before you couldn't even consider it. And it takes a lot to save up 3.5%, 5%. And not everybody is able, like we said, conventional loans were the only ones that you could use for the qualifying income from the rental. So this is really opening up the game for everybody. It makes it really,
it's a cool thing. I mean, as I said, get something and then rent out part of it. I mean, at least it'll cut your costs down, even, make sure you can afford what you did as without the person, but it would just go back to your pocket. So anyway, that would be mine.
That's the real estate agent and the lender and me. I would be like, okay, make sure you have some reserves, even if it's not required, because you're not guaranteed that someone's going to pay their rent and the eviction process takes some time.
And it's
So,
getting harder and harder to do that as far as, I mean, there's a lot more hoops you have to jump through to,
mhm,
if you do have to evict somebody. So there
most
is that,
definitely.
you definitely need to pay attention to that and get to know that information as well. All right. Some benefits of it. I think this is so cool. We just talked about it. It could be like a great way to get into, like, maybe owning multiple properties at some point, because you could do a rental and then get enough equity and buy another house and kind of continue up and use that and keep you going.
Oh, most
Or,
definitely. And like we were saying, sometimes you want to live together or there's a need to live together, but there's also a need for separation of space. Let's face it. We tend to get on each other's nerves. I don't know that I love my parents dearly, but I'm not sure I could live there full time. I go to visit and I'm like, this is a great visit. And I'm glad that I have a home to go home to. And it's not that I'm just used to my way of living now. I don't live
yeah.
under their roof anymore. I would have to readapt to being there. But if I had
tricky. It's very tricky. We talked about that time. It can get really tricky sometimes. And I mean, I know my son's been there almost a month now with us and stuff, and he's like, "You need to get away from your mom. I love you, but."
That is so funny. But it's true. It gives a separate living space. It's nice.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. But then keeps you in close proximity to one another at the same time.
Well, so I said, I mean, when we were looking at it, was for like our in-laws or like one of our kids came back with me, like a student, and having a place, but not necessarily wanting to be underneath our roof, either situation, but just be close by just in case they needed something, So, absolutely.
For sure.
All right. And that's all we got for today, guys.
Yeah, we didn't want to just overload you with a lot of words and all kinds of stuff like that. Just keeping it.
But we do have an announcement, though, to make, and I didn't do that at the top of the thing. So I'm going to say right now. So the next 2 weeks, we're not going to be doing Keeping It Real with Kerri and Niki, because Kerri's going to go on a vacation, and she totally deserves this vacation. So have fun, Kerri.
Thank you. It's more for my husband to decompress before Toys for Tots season. I don't know if a lot of you know, but he's the coordinator for the Kitsap County Toys for Tots program, and it can be very stressful. So it's nice to be able to have a little reprieve before all of that is underway.
Yeah, you guys put in a ton of hours for that, and it's such a big thing for our community here in Kitsap. So, and you guys take volunteers. I know that you guys I'm getting probably starting to get ready for donation boxes around the area. So, it goes back into our community, and we're actually helping the one in Siouxland this year, because that's where I'm going to be during that time, and I wanted to make sure I was involved again. So, but wherever you're at, I'm sure there's probably one. Find it, because it's such a really, they do so many amazing things. So they really have a lot of kids.
And I'm going to have a flyer out by the end of today to give information on how you can volunteer. I also have a flyer for if you need to sign up. It's the information on how you can do that as well. And our boxes will be going out November 1st. So you can visit. This is the confusion that we're running into, is that we used to be part of Mason County. It was a Mason County and Kitsap County thing. And so they named the program Belfair Toys for Tots. So when people try to search for anything in Kitsap County, they can't find it because it's under Belfair. And we've been trying to change the name, haven't been successful yet. So if you are out there, you're looking for your local Toys for Tots, look for Belfair.
Okay, good to know. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's one of those well-kept secrets, I guess, which really shouldn't be. So we want you to go on there, and there's ways to donate financially. There's ways to put your business down if you want to have a box delivered. So you can also look for places that are on the list of where you can drop a toy.
Perfect.
So it's great stuff.
And if you send me that flyer, I will put it on my web or my Facebook pages and stuff too, so that way it gets out even more. So anyway, thank you for joining us. So we are not going to be here for the next 2 weeks. We'll be back the week after that. And we've got some other fun stuff coming up, because we're getting into the holidays, and there's some things you got to know before the holidays about things to do and don't do.
Yes.
So we're going to be talking about some of that, and we look forward to seeing all of you guys back very soon. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, or follow button, and that way you don't miss anything. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, everyone.